this one, a YouTube prepper in the news plus memes. So we are live.
The memes thing is, it's funny. I'm not too sure it's necessary to say plus memes every other time.
Only when I have a lot. This is like a nice trove, like a trove, if you will. Not like a insane amount, but I probably have like 30 again. So
30. Holy cow, we need a separate.
Because I've got the Halloween memes. I got a few of the Rittenhouse memes. I think. Don't remember if I got them in there. There's, it's been a few weeks, so I have a decent meme backlog.
We still have to figure the logistics of doing that with guests on,
right?
Because
and potentially have them showing the memes too.
Well, it's funny, but at the same time, if you have like that U.S. Air Force PhD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't be showing the meme about some guys looking at his mushroom or whatever. picking mushrooms, as it were. We'll do it live. Yeah, some of those, because I sometimes forget too how, because I'm fairly irreverent and with my humor.
So you're still a young man. You're still in party mode.
Really, not that young.
You want to share your age? How old are you? I want to say 36.
Yeah, 37.
Okay,
so
well,
I'll be start. Yeah, you're right on. I'll be 38 soon, but I feel fairly immature with my humor sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was mentioning, I have a decent, not a massive stash, nothing legendary about this meme stash, but it's a couple weeks worth compared to my usual amount.
Yeah. There's Kyle. I wonder if that's my Patreon Kyle friend.
Not sure.
If it is, well, he'll be watching this probably. It's not Kyle. He's got a different name. He gave me a battery I use it for my tractor. It's neat.
Okay. Like a deep cycle battery or what?
Just a regular battery. I've been using it for years. And yeah, it's good. Sometimes you get these gifts from people in the community, and yeah, it's kind of neat. This weekend, I'll touch up on this. Welcome everybody if you're just joining us. My name is Shane with Prepper Logic. We got the Lord Humongous, Eric from rulethewasteland.com.
Yes, sir.
And this is fun. We do the Prepper Trifecta every few weeks or so. So we'll probably be back in 2 or 3 weeks. We'll figure that out by the end of the show. But it's also important to get out there and get your hands dirty. This weekend, I don't know if you can see on the board, I was touching up with some knife terminology. So I had a knife. I cut myself. Everybody cuts themselves.
Yeah.
Got to be humble with the preparedness. In the preparedness world. And just make a long story short, I cut myself a few weeks ago. Somebody passed me a knife and the blade was up and I thought it was down. You should put it on the table. And it's just a little nick. I thought, okay, well, I need a refresher. So went through the process and went through the proper knife handling and the different techniques that you use. And it's just, I can sound like a broken record with now, but it's so important to get out there and just keep up with these skills. They're perishable.
Everything.
Hitches you learn.
Everything's perishable if you never do it. That's one of the things that I really want to focus on more is just practicing everything. Not just something you've done. Even something as simple as like starting a fire. If you haven't done it in months or years or whatever, you're not going to be quite as good at it as the knowledge will be there. But the practical, muscle memory, all that stuff, just remembering certain details, that stuff can get murky.
Yeah, exactly. So how you been, man?
Been good. How about yourself? Have a good Halloween. Do Canadians celebrate Halloween?
Me too. Of course we do. I bought a bunch of candy.
Dress up like Americans and scare people. Oh.
Yeah. This is the first year my brother got a chair, put out a bowl of candy, put out a little torch thing.
That's how I did it.
Like we had 2 people come by.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a COVID thing or if there's just not a lot of kids in this neighborhood, but we did the same thing. And I held about half of it back, expecting the first couple kids to dump it all in their bag and run off, but I wasn't actively watching it, but only about a third of the first bucket of candy ever got taken. So I wouldn't be surprised if more than 4 or 5 kids came through there. So.
Wow. Yeah, I packed it in at like 8:39 I think we have two people. It's funny because there was one kid, there's this weird intersection where there was an obviously kid dressed up in whatever outfit and this dumpy older weird looking woman walking beside him across the street. And I guess I was getting desperate. So I said, hey, you want some candy? Thinking that this lady was associated with the kid. Oh, this is a mother.
But the lady just walked off and the kid's like,
the kid
stranger
kept walking.
danger.
No, the kid kept walking.
Oh, it was the opposite?
It was the opposite. And then the lady, chunky lady, comes over and says, oh, what are you doing? Hey, boys. Just trying to hit us up and stuff. And I'm like, okay, here's your chocolate bar. Get out of here.
You made some friends.
Oh, no, she was a 0, a 1. I'll give her a 1.
A 1. Just for being English. English and in your general age range, I guess.
And then the second person I gave candy to was some punk kid. I guess he was like 14. Here's the thing that makes him a punk. Look, you're doing Halloween. You get some candy, you throw it in, like, say thanks, nod, grunt.
Yeah. The head nod, right? The up nod, maybe.
Yeah. I got nothing from this kid. I called him over. He said, dude, you want some candy? And this is the only night of the year you can get away with saying shit
right.
like this.
Yelling at kids that they want candy.
It doesn't work at the playgrounds. It's
free
noon
candy
on Mondays. So, he came over. He comes running over. I gave him a handful because at this point I'm an hour in. I only have one previous experience. I got a bunch of candy. What am I going to do with it?
Right.
And he just puts, opens his bag. It's this very self-entitled attitude. So
kids these days, man.
Yes. Trick or treat. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, that was my Halloween. And
sounds about like mine, except I didn't even bother answering the door. I literally just set a table out there with a bucket of candy on it.
Wow. See, that's incredibly trusting. I don't think I would.
Well, like I said, I held back because I thought the first couple would just dump it out. But I guess we didn't have that many, or they were all very polite and only took a few because I only went through like half a bucket. SPQR Cincinnati is already getting antsy. He said, where are the memes at? Patience, my child. Patience. They're all probably ones that you've seen. I think I had a couple more Kyle Rittenhouse ones that didn't make it in, which I'm upset about because I think they're still stuck on my phone. But so that should be Monday, I think, the resolution of that trial. Interesting. But the title of this, how many people we got in here? 28. That's solid. Right. Nothing crazy. The title was referencing an article, which I will probably throw up on the shared screen here. Let me see if I can get that going. About someone that we all know and love who made it into the news, luckily for not anything bad. So if you guys, let me know if you guys can see that. It says, I moved my family off grid in rural Alaska to prepare for a zombie apocalypse. And it is none other than Morgan from Rogue Preparedness, which is pretty cool. So that one's on the New York Post. It appears there's another one that Chase sent me the link for that's with the Daily Mail. So she made international news here. Doomsday prepper mom who lives off-grid in Alaska details very drastic steps she's taken to get ready for an apocalypse, from hunting food and hoarding canned goods to making her young daughters build bug-out bags. And I've actually I already knew from her channel that she'd moved to Alaska. It seemed fairly sudden from an outside perspective, seeing it on the channel. But she had already posted about that publicly before I saw these articles. So I didn't know she was in Alaska, but it's still pretty interesting. We'll definitely have to get her on here and have her talk about like the details, anything they want to share about why.
Yeah, that's quite the change too, because I believe she was in
Texas.
Like it was much hotter climate.
Yeah, West Texas, like very dry, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, definitely much more hot and dry than Alaska.
Yeah, it's a huge polarity, huge change. So good for her. Do you want to go back into that article for a second? Sure. Let us show the audience some of the photos, maybe from the link that I sent you.
I'll check that out.
And it really kind of showcases the lifestyle she's living now. The thing that I love about this, and there's a bit of clickbait in the title. Look at what a great photo of her.
Yeah,
look at that.
Like mentioning the zombie apocalypse and doomsday. Like, of course they're going to do that stuff, but it didn't. The one that I read it wasn't mocking her or anything. You know what I mean? They were sensationalizing it with those terms and stuff, but it wasn't a negative coverage of any kind. at least not that I saw. And then here we got some videos of, you can't get sound when I'm playing because I'm listening to my headphones, but maybe I'll get those clips downloaded for when we get her on here next. But yeah, here's some nice and snowy, and collecting some wild blueberries, which is pretty cool. Awesome. Yeah. Out in the brush.
He's kind of low key. He's kind of underground with the whole thing.
Right.
I'm not too sure what he does. Maybe we should pick her brain on that next time we have her on.
Yeah, whatever they're willing to share. They have
the growing stuff. Can you go back one clip? The greenhouse there.
Oh,
or sorry, maybe it was the one after.
That was an ad. That was an ad, I think. But right there, yeah. So yeah, they got a green, and I'm pretty sure this location now is actually like officially completely off the grid. Like there is no electric running to there.
That's
running,
awesome.
Running exclusively off solar and generators, as far as I know. So yeah, BRG says San Antonio area, then went to New Mexico. So yeah, I know for a while then even she was in an RV, completely like this, completely RV living, which is pretty cool. So yeah, so got canned goods talking over here, but this is a nice stockpile of wood. And definitely, if you really want to be off the grid, Alaska's one of the spots in the U.S. that you can do that the most. Because there's really nowhere in the continuous United States that you're more than 50 to 100 miles from, quote, civilization, as it were. I mean, you can still be fairly remote, definitely isolated. That's not an issue. But if you really want, I think they have a small amount of acre or moderate amount of acreage there. I think she said it's somewhere between the 5 and 15 acres, but I don't remember the exact amount. But like I mentioned before about places like here, and even more so places like there, it's a double-edged sword when it comes to the isolation. If you're set up well, it can be a huge benefit because no one else can get out there. Other people can't. They're not going to go there. You know what I mean? There's nothing for anybody there if you're not already established. But then, of course, you are isolated too. So it just depends on what the situation is. But if you set up a good homestead, then for sure you can be in a good spot and not really have to worry about people giving you problems, So definitely you can check. Here's some more open carrying, cool Alaska thing you can do in Alaska, which incidentally you can also do here in Nevada. You can open carry. Don't see too many people taking advantage of that, though. I definitely think you should be allowed to, but like I mentioned before, I prefer just for logistical reasons to have people not know that I'm carrying most of the time. But I definitely, constitutionally, it of course should be allowed. Not to go on a tangent.
There's a law here in Canada where it's permitted to carry a pistol or handgun rather
while hunting or something.
No, it has to be on your own property, and it has to do something with mining. I'm probably butchering this a little bit, but apparently you can get some kind of permit to like, they're very strict here. It's retardedly strict, but I know there is this one stipulation that you're allowed to if you're in a rural location. So yeah, great photos with. I sent you an email, by the way, Eric. So don't read it out loud. But,
okay.
It's this whole thing. With Morgan and growth preparedness, with living off grid, is sort of the end game or the ideal situation for a preparedness individual that really wants to take it to the next level, because you're relying on your own food and shelter, heating, really everything. So it's certainly motivational for that's for sure. And talk about commitments, because you're moving to a state from very warm, hot climate to the middle of nowhere. Wow, what a dramatic change. So good for her. Would love to have her on.
That's what. Do you can you post something in the chat real quick, and then I can upgrade your, because I don't see you in there yet. You can open carry Montana. Yeah, I mean, some of these have constitutional carry in some of these states, which is nice. Like I think Arizona does and everything.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to show some 30 memes? Maybe we got to do a second show here. Just Eric's memes.
Yeah, exactly. So you should be set up on there. So now I will grab my memes. Magic Mondays live is great. What is that? Magic's Monday. What? Mark Olson? I'm not sure what you're talking about, but doesn't matter because we got memes.
We already got away with a thumbs down too. Just look at the picture. So, oh well.
All right, you ready? These are,
Let's
like I
do
said,
it,
there's a
brother.
lot. I don't think I got all my Kyle Rittenhouse ones in here, but all right. So here we go. The year is 2040. You're eating from your weekly ration tube of cricket paste in your self-driving electric car that only allows you to get to work and back. You get home and greeted by your non-binary they friend as your child comes in saying, "Thinking is a crime." So wholesome. Just
Ouch.
the good old days, right? And then you got every Halloween, girls be like, "Look, I'm Harley Quinn." They're all
Ugh.
busted. Yeah, no. Why is this not working? Here we go. My sister and her boyfriend, Halloween costume. She's like the dead deer, and he's the hunter showing her off. She's even got the arrow pinched under her arm. I don't know if you can see that.
Yikes.
That's pretty clever. And then we got Big Pharma and the Democrats in 2019, and then Big Pharma and the Democrats in 2021. Best buddies.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Then we got me. It's medicinal, the cop. Well, first of all, that's a belt-fed machine gun. It's for mental health. Then we have gun guys back then. We mutually pledged to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Gun guys now. You know that's illegal, right? And then trying to hold my tongue when the conversation gets political.
The bullets around the neck like that.
Yeah, right.
Practical.
Full on IRA mask and everything.
How do you drink through it? Oh, I guess you must have a whole.
You have the mouth hole, like the steam.
Right.
And then here's women on social media. They get 134 or notifications. No one cares about me. Do people even know I exist? And the guy gets 3. He's like, bro, I'm famous.
Yeah. That's true.
It's like Google how to deal with fame. Then we have, I got the vax because I care about people around me. You have a huge heart. Thank you. No, I'm saying you have a dangerously swollen heart. Unfortunately, becoming more and more true as the evidence is coming out. You think coming out as gay is hard? Try telling people you enjoy Little Caesars pizza. See how much acceptance you get from the tolerant left. I don't know why, or if you guys even have Little Caesars, but for some reason it's gotten a lot of. It unfortunately became in that meme zone where everyone makes fun of it for being trash, even though it's just totally normal. To me, I don't think there's anything.
You enjoy Little Caesars pizza.
To me, it tastes like pizza. I don't know. I don't know why Little Caesars became the one that like gets these kinds of memes, but it's still funny. Because it's pizza, man. I don't know if I'd even be able to pick it out of a taste lineup, to be honest, but I'm not really a highly attuned palate. This as
hang on a second. Go back there for a second. So you're saying that Little Caesars, you actually enjoy it.
To me, it's just pizza. It's not better or worse than any of these other chains.
Maybe they're doing something wrong in the States that are different, dude, because like Little Caesars here is like cardboard with a.
Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of people say that, but like I'm really not that particular when it comes to stuff. Especially pizza.
Come up to Canada. I'm going to take to some real pizza joints.
I mean, I like better pizza. I'm not saying Little Caesars is like what I would consider the pinnacle of pizza, but it just tastes like pizza to me. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
But as a Florida man, what I do care about, originally a Florida man, is the orange juice. And this is the new extreme pulp orange juice, which is definitely the way. When you're from Florida, it's the only way. And it's just literally chunks of orange.
What's orange juice like in Florida? Have you had?
Like, I mean, I've had fresh squeeze from oranges in my backyard, so it doesn't get any better than that. Oh yeah, we had orange trees on our property.
How much of a difference in taste is there?
Oh, it's uncomparable. The stuff from the stores tastes like bitter and everything to me, like acidic. The fresh squeeze stuff with like natural pulp in it, it's just amazing from your own backyard. Okay. You can't beat that. Like I still like store-bought oranges, and I prefer the stuff with pulp because I got used to that fresh squeeze. But yeah, there's no comparison. Just like most other things, when it's like true organic, natural from your own backyard, it's hard to beat from the store. And then we have how dads that mask their kids wait at the bus stop for them.
There's something wrong about that.
I know. And we have, I haven't had any vaccine side effects. Which vaccine did you get? Which vaccine did you get? And then we got God watching you comply like a little bitch with a tear rolling down his cheek. And we got, it means that it's working, and she's all falling apart.
Right.
Haha, enjoy your horse pace as they get even worse. Get boosted or no Christmas, and then they're gone for Christmas. And then we got when you think it's the
Oh,
weekend,
no.
but it's only Wednesday.
What's going on there? Is it good?
The Weekend is that the singer rapper? That's his
Oh,
face.
is that okay?
Yeah, his name is The Weekend, but it's only Wednesday, so it's Wednesday Adams. So it's
Got it. That's
workplace humor mixed with pop stars and actresses.
like
Then we have I'm Frankenstein. Yeah, I'm Frankenstein's monster. You don't seem like a monster. 40% of all U.S. dollars in existence were printed in the last 12 months. Oh! Scary stuff. And then this is my favorite of all time so far. Me blowing past the vaccine stormtroopers on day 3582 of being excluded from society. There's something about this one that had me rolling. I think it's a combination of like the really nice bike that he has, the fact that he's just in his whitey tighties, just like all crazy, moving past him like a blurry Bigfoot. Oh, it's just I was just cracking up. That one was really good. Then we have, this isn't even a meme really, but it's just the stuff that's popping up now. Inflation is good for you. Don't panic over milk prices. Inflation, this is a real article. Inflation is bad for the 1%, but helps out everyone else, which is actually literally completely the opposite. The only people who actually benefit from inflation are people who have large asset holdings, are able to play games with large amounts of debt, things like that. So the middle class is the ones who's crushed by it. 1% will be just fine. People who actually own everything, because the stuff is what increases in value. So, and this is funny too. What people think it's like in Mexico, a guy getting robbed. Mexico in reality, it's like, oh, a temple, tacos, water, and a guy getting robbed. It's only a little bit of it. Ziggurat or whatever the hell thing's called. And here's one of the Rittenhouse ones. Okay, one more hypothetical question. Is it normal if my wife has a boyfriend? And I think I missed the one where they have the judge and Rittenhouse like playing Call of Duty together because they're both like leaning in.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they added
the controllers, right?
Yeah. And it says, reminder to parents, please check your kids' Halloween candy. Just found this in my son's Skittles. It's like a whole gallon of bleach. And then we have, this is personally, I had to take a moratorium from checking for a week. It says when it's been 90 seconds since you've checked your crypto balance and you're not sure if your portfolio has tripled or gone to zero. I'm actually on a currently self-imposed 30-day moratorium from checking my crypto balance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm about 11 days, just because I was checking like 10 times a day, and I'm like, I don't need to check this. I'd rather let it triple in my absence. So I'm on a 30-day sobriety test. All right, so that was it. That was all the memes for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry I didn't get all the Rittenhouse ones in there that I meant to. But I tried.
That's hilarious. I might have one or two here I can email you. So the inflation aspect, though, too, it's funny because that topic has been coming up more and more lately in the news with respect to food prices here in Canada. So
yeah. How's it getting there?
How is what getting here?
Like food prices, you've seen noticeable increases?
Yes. Yeah, I have, especially for the price of meat. And
yeah.
The consensus in the media is that this is in addition to fuel prices as well. Fuel prices are quite astronomical lately. So I wonder how long this is going to ride out for. And I know you've experienced it there too in one of your videos too, is sort of to expect higher inflation to keep going on for some time. So what would you want to add to that or comment on that with respect to like how long do you see this wave going on?
I mean, a lot of it depends on what the government decides to do. Obviously, they could theoretically do what Volcker did back in the 70s and raise interest rates and do quote unquote the right thing. I definitely don't think they're going to do that because I think the economy is even weaker now and honestly couldn't even stand that kind of corrective action. It would literally be like taking someone off high doses of heroin like cold turkey. I think they would, seize up. So I think they're just continue, and they would lose power too. I've mentioned in one of my earlier videos that the only control that the government has is being able to pay people. If they suddenly to cut spending, they would have to stop social services or at least drastically cut down on it, drastically cut down on military spending and all these other things that are what give them their power. So when the other option is to give people what they want and continue to stay in control, at least, I think that's obviously what they're going to do. And I think there's a reason why we've seen almost every single government in history take that path when it gets to this point, is because the alternative is for them to give up power. Sometimes, usually, suddenly and catastrophically, which they're not going to, they have no reason to do that. So I think it's going to get worse. And I do think that the only question is whether we'll see like legit hyperinflation, or if we'll just see 5-10% inflation, for the next decade or whatever, or will it get to 300-1,000% inflation? You know what I mean? That I can't say. Depends on what they do.
Look, finances, agree. I certainly co-sign that thought, that lineage of thought. But here's what throws me off as somebody that's pretty much ignorant to the financial system, the complexities of it. It's a very complicated system. And the part that sort of baffles me is we gave out a lot of, we did, but your government and my government gave millions of dollars in restitution payments to its citizens to help with their own personal recovery. So I'm just perplexed at how, if we have inflation in prices, but we've also got this huge animal, we're just giving away tons of money. And I'm wondering what sort of ripple effect we're going to see as a result of this. And in the early days of COVID, we had this meme. There was like a wave where it said COVID. The wave was going to take over the town. And then there was a bigger wave behind COVID and said financial collapse. It was a meme or an image that went around social media for a bit there. And I'm still wondering if that's going to be the case in the near future. It's complex. I don't know enough about finances that I can comment on it intelligently, but
I agree. I mean, I think it is. And there's some people who think that COVID was maybe not, purposefully started, but, utilized to kind of cover up. Like we had that huge dip after, in March of 2020, stock market crash, because the economy was already doing very poorly. And some people think that they purposefully used COVID or, pushed the narrative or whatever, if they didn't outright create it, just to cover up the fact that the economy was doing so poorly. They could use that to say, oh, this is just COVID related, just like we're seeing with all these supply chain issues. They're all blaming it on COVID because so they don't have to admit that the economy is actually in an extremely bad shape. And certainly the COVID stuff is making it worse, but it was already, fundamentally struggling just because of how fake everything is. And I do think it'll continue to get worse. Like I said, I just don't know to what extent. Like Mark Olson said, and I made a video on recently, I do think we'll see stuff like price controls. I do think we'll see stuff like some form of, if it's not continued stimulus payments, it'll be some kind of UBI, or at least to some people, because as soon as the payments start going to any section of the population, whether that's people on welfare, whether that's certain businesses, whether that's the military, like those people will be clamoring for change and just be ready to vote in whoever says we're going to start paying you again. So that's always going to be their method of trying to stay in control.
I think a lot of people got comfortable too with receiving these monthly payments over and over again.
Of course, yeah.
So I wonder which countries, not just Canada and the US, I imagine it's various other countries as well. And I wonder what countries are considering a UBI or some sort of payment system, because they're already riding that wave right now. They've been giving their citizens money, or a portion of their citizens. So maybe they say, hey, maybe Trudeau will do it up here in Canada. I'll say, okay, well, it's just socialism 101. Here we go. It's just UBI. We'll start here.
Brian Hickenbottom, appreciate it for the super chat. Says, good to join you. It has been a while. Thanks. Do you support Build Back Better? I'm not familiar with all the tenets of the Build Back Better platform, but everything I've seen to me indicates just an extremely fundamental misunderstanding of just economics and the way these things would have to work if you were going to do them. In general, I certainly don't support it, the platform, but I have mentioned in the past that if I became emperor of the US right now, so all the problems were already there, I think the one thing that might make sense would be to spend a bunch of money on stuff that actually improves the country, knowing that the dollar is going, on purpose, knowing that these loans are never going to be paid back, knowing that the currency is going to die anyway. So, I'm kind of glad if they actually do end up spending money on infrastructure stuff, that's certainly better than pretty much anything else the government's spending money on. But as a platform, it's doomed. And as a financial strategy, it's absolutely doomed. The only argument you can make in its favor is that the economy and the currency is doomed anyway, so we might as well take advantage of it. And if that is their real reasoning for doing this, it makes more sense. But based on all the pork and all the stuff they try to cram into these bills, I really don't even think that that's their thought process, honestly. So I definitely can't support it. What do you think? Yeah, I don't know.
It's American.
Yeah, it's a part of the Biden administration's platform. A lot of it includes like the infrastructure bill, and if I'm not mistaken, a lot of it also includes like the green initiatives and all this stuff, which, like I said, most of the time are misguided. I'm all for sustainability and resource management in a smart, logical, sustainable way, but most of this stuff is done for ideological points or for to give certain groups power or money, and is really just paying lip service to these actual causes. And that's on both sides. That's not the Democrats don't have a sole claim to those kind of tactics. All these politicians do that. Just like with the Patriot Act, you know what I mean? Like same kind of thing.
It's unfortunate, that we live in a day and age where look at this thing what happened in Glasgow with all the leaders got together, this big event for the environment. There's a term, I forget the name of the event. I should know this. And they had all their speeches. This is the time we need to make the change. The world is coming to it. Catastrophic end because of the nonsense we're doing to the environment. Thinking, look, no offense, government, but your media placements are just filled with buzzwords to invoke the illusion that you care. And at the end of the day, you're scratching the surface to a problem that is deep-seated. That's going to require complete new, remove the mask sort of thing. Like the whole thing's got to. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Like and 180 with the way that we're treating the environment. And
if they even
going to get us out of it.
Right. If all that they're saying is true, that would be absolutely correct. And that they don't even think it's true because you see all these guys that are the biggest proponents of that stuff. They are all buying oceanfront property everywhere. And they're supposedly all saying that the sea level is going to rise by 60 feet and all this stuff. But literally like Zuckerberg, Bezos, Bill Gates, they all buy oceanfront property recently. So they all fly planes everywhere and fly around in their giant yachts. And so I don't doubt that they, at least to some extent, agree with some of the tenets of the stuff that they say, but that's not their primary motivation for doing these big policy issues. I definitely think it's more about control most of the time.
Right. Okay. So environment going downhill, control, media, corporations, governments, financial collapse looming, inflation.
Right.
SHTF in the looming overhead. What advice can we give the audience to say, look, these are things you can just. Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, my advice, real quick, I would say is pretty much always the same. It's fundamentally take care of your basic preparations first: food, water, protection, and then financially, you want to bet against the debt and get out of dollar-denominated assets. So. The thing, like I just mentioned in some videos about obviously inflation, the admitted inflation rate that the government has stated is 5% or around there for this past year. You can still get a mortgage for like 2.5% sometimes, but that literally means that if you have dollars, you're losing at least, if you believe the government, at least 5% a year that you're just losing to inflation. And that's at the very least. So, and we all know that most of the stuff that you actually are having to buy, like gas, like paying for rent, like paying for food, that stuff has all gone up by a lot more than 5%. So you got to put your money, if you have any left over after paying for all this stuff, you got to put it into stuff that can rise with inflation. So most of the time, that's any commodities. I think crypto will also rise, at least keep pace with inflation. I think in many cases stocks will, but it's not guaranteed. But at the very least, you want to stay out of just having cash. It's not a bad idea to have a little bit. Obviously I like having some on hand for emergencies, but you don't just want to have a bunch of your money sitting in a bank account for sure. Or in bonds,
Yeah, look at, I'm sure most of the users have got the basics together. There's nothing wrong with continuing to practice those skills. And it's actually something everybody should be doing irrespective of something looming in the background.
Right.
So if you want to be risky, what I would suggest is to, not financial advice, but there's just so much volatility in the crypto markets. There's a lot of money to be made. You're willing to take some risk, play with crypto then.
Yeah.
Not so much, then stick it where it's always going to have some value and increased value over time, which is your precious metals. And for me personally, because of the price of food, the one that gets me is the meats. So I'm actually thinking about, I got a lot of meats anyways. I'm actually thinking about going into some of my preps. That's,
I got a chest freezer finally, like a year or two ago, after I could finally get them back. I definitely think, I mean, like if you look at the amount of the meat's gone up, just buying and the amount of electricity or whatever and cost of a chest freezer, beyond just the aspect of having that food on hand, which is good from a preparedness perspective, just filling one right now, with meat at the cheapest you can get it, and just eating it for a year. Like there's almost no way that this stuff's going to be cheaper in a year. It's probably gonna be 50% more in a year, at least 10-25% more. And then add to that the fact that you actually have some. That obviously, if you have like a freeze dryer or something, it'd be a fantastic time to stock up on as much of freeze dried meats as you can. Meats are one of the harder things to store, but it's still not that hard. You can do it canned, you can do it freeze dried, and I primarily focus on canned. Yeah, or frozen, but frozen obviously relies on electricity. But
not sure if you have these sorts of options in Vegas or Florida for that matter, but here in Canada, this is what I'm thinking. I've done this sort of thing in the past, but on a bigger scale in the new year anyways. So you're going to buy beef anyways. We've got these where I live, not too far from a lot of farms, beef cattle farms, things like that. Purchasing a quarter of a cow or a half a cow, money's up front, and they chop it up and give you your stews, your roasts, your various cuts of meat. So that might be a route to go as well, as to buy in bulk.
Absolutely. I think it's not really an option out here. There's not too many ranchers out in the desert for cattle. Florida, definitely you can do that. And also for the simple fact of, we always been talking about the supply chain issues, and there's going to be times in the future, like we've seen these trucking issues, or another part in the supply chain may fail, and those ranchers can't get their product out even if they have it. So if you've already set up that connection with a local guy and he can't even sell his stuff anywhere else, or can't ship it, or can't do whatever, then you have that connection. You have hopefully set up an opportunity to, or an ability to store the stuff, things like that. So definitely go through the process now if you're in a place where you can do that.
That's the feeling or consensus that I'm getting from a lot of people in the preparedness community, is that it's things are inadvertently becoming a lot more localized or suburban, direct connections with your sources. I have a question from individual online. This is Pierce NWO Exposed. Thanks for you. It's acts.
Yes.
Do you guys stockpile alcohol?
I definitely stock some. I don't know if it's enough to call it a stockpile, but it's definitely something I like to have on hand, especially just vodka, because there's a lot of different things you can use it for. You can use it as a sterilizer. You can use it as a fuel for different types of stoves. You can use it as a fire starter, a disinfectant. So yeah, I definitely keep some on hand, and I think it's the one that I actually will drink as well. Not straight up, but I'm not really like a whiskey drinker, so I don't keep a lot of whiskey on hand. But I will actually on occasion drink vodka, so then it won't get, and it can last. Any of the hard liquors don't really have an issue with shelf life. But I think that vodka is the most versatile, not only as a drink, but also as a use. And you can distill it even further if you have the setup, if you needed 95% or whatever for something else. So yeah, I definitely stock some. Not a massive amount. It's kind of expensive, but
septic or for cleaning any open wounds, really.
Perfect. Yeah, or disinfecting instruments, even just general cleaning. It's great as like a solvent for like getting gummy stuff off knives and whatever. It works really well for that. John Bibb says, does anyone worry about CWD? I'm not familiar. Out of context, I don't know what you mean by that acronym.
Maybe elaborate on what CWD is, and for Pierce, absolutely. So alcohol's top 10, because it's. Well, here's the thing. Here's my approach or logic with respect to having booze on hand: is if anything dramatic were going to happen, some people are not going to be able to accept that shock or that change, that psychological shift. So
Absolutely.
that stress is going to build up very quickly. What do people do when they're stressed and anxiety? Amygdala in the brain, that part of the brain that deals with stress and anxiety. They want to buzz out. You know, it's drugs or binge junk food or.
And honestly, a lot of the people who are, you know, fairly addicted to whatever substance, beer, alcohol, you know, whatever, cigarettes, they don't tend to like stockpile a lot of it. So they'll really quickly run out. Like these people that they'll go to the store like every day or every week to stock up on what they, and just get what they, you know, they don't buy like a truckload at once. So these people will be, not that you necessarily want to prey on desperation, but having something that, you know, a lot of people are going to be really dire desire of and willing to trade for, or use it to, you know, bribe people if necessary, or even to just appease people. You know, if it's a dangerous situation, you can be like, hey bro, look, I'll give you a little bottle of vodka if you just take a hike. And they might be like, oh shit, yeah.
Or here, hey, you and your mom, hey, why don't you have this? Go for a walk, have this bottle of vodka, leave with your mom. And
yeah, exactly. And it says
fun in the
chronic wasting disease. Yeah, I mean, as far as how it affects like livestock or wild game, it's not something that I really concern about.
Yeah, you know what?
Bovine spongiform encephalopathy is a prion disease. I don't think it's the same thing, is it?
I know it's a disease that affects here. It's hit the deer here in Ontario.
Thing. Okay, so CWD is Creutzfeldt-Jakob. Creutzfeldt-Jakob is the human version of bovine spongiform, which are just both prion diseases. Mad cow, yeah, exactly, mad cow disease. But I guess CWD is the deer form of mad cow disease, which I wasn't familiar with. So yeah, if you don't, any of those are, if you avoid the brain and spinal tissue, you can't get it. So it's only in the brain. Like I don't eat beef brains or spinal tissue. The original place they found it in humans was in cannibal tribes. And it was primarily affecting like women and children, because as part of these tribes, they would, like when someone died as like an honor to them, they would eat them, but like the women and children got like the lesser parts. So they were always eating the brain and the spinal tissue. And then, yeah, so if you don't eat brains or spinal tissue of the deer or the cattle, feed them to your dog, or use it as bait or whatever. But if you got a whole cow or a whole deer, I think you can avoid the brain and the spinal column and you should be fine. And it's also interesting to note that it's not a regular disease in the sense that it's like not a virus or a bacteria. So cooking the brain doesn't matter. You would have to like basically burn everything to ash to make sure that you'd eliminated it. So just don't eat the brain. Easy.
Don't know enough about it. I don't want to intelligent. I don't want to give a comment. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do some research on it, get back to you. I know it does affect the deer here in Ontario, and I don't know.
I wonder how they get it.
That's a great question. Not sure. And I'm not sure if you can cook it, because theoretically.
Well, like I said, the cooking doesn't kill it. I know, but if it's the same as the bovine form, then it would only be in the brain and spinal tissue. So just don't eat that. It won't be in the meat. But I'm not super familiar with it. If it's different.
Here's the part that I have sure. If you're saying cooking doesn't kill it,
right?
That's difficult to process, because
it's a rogue protein. It's like not a living organism. That's the thing. It's like a mutated protein, so it doesn't have, it's not a living.
No amount of heat will destroy the protein.
No, it will, but you literally have to destroy the tissue. So you'd have to cook it well beyond what you would to eat it.
Yeah.
You know, like just you have to literally burn it. Like just simply making it like well done or whatever wouldn't be enough.
I guess that's the question.
Yeah.
If you knew you could burn it, it's charred piece of meat in a survival situation, eat that. Knowing that
if you had to, yeah, I think I would just use the brain to catch a wolf or something and use it as bait. Like if you got access to the brain, hopefully you'd have access to the rest of the animal too.
Yeah,
Nisha says just touching the animal's blood can infect you. Well, then it definitely can't be this. Definitely can't be the same exact thing as
if it gets into you.
Creutzfeldt-Jakob or anything, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not an expert.
Right. Biological weapon that was released by the shadow government. Okay. A little bit of the conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, who knows? I tend to think that if that stuff is government created in a lot of cases, it's not purposefully released. It probably just escaped. But who knows? No way to tell.
Matthew Stone got 2 deer last week. Good for you. I got busy with work. I can't hunt this year, unfortunately. But we'll just add it to the list. It's one of those really important things that preppers should be all over is hunting techniques. Yeah, I don't really worry. I'll say this much, John. If it's CWD or any number of different things, I tend not to worry anymore. There's people that approach me and say, "Hey, Jade, do you hear about this is gonna
Right.
There's one dude that I know. He's a cool dude. This is sort of the local prepper groups that I'm associated with here. He's a cool dude, but he's like tripped out. He's like, hey, how's it? Like every time I talk to him, he can't even speak because he's overwhelmed with this bubble
Right.
that is waking up to the idea of preparedness. So I clicked off that switch a while back.
You have to, I think,
because
to be able to live a normal life
with your psychological health. We're
right.
That's number one.
Yeah, I would say fundamentally, if being prepared after, obviously, like you said, there's that initial like, oh my, realizing just like how bad things can go and trying to get prepared. But once you get over that initial like hurdle of I'm so unprepared, if prepping doesn't make you feel better, if it's actively making you feel worse because you're constantly, then you need to like really reevaluate your mindset.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because you should be getting increasingly comfortable the more prepared you get, not increasingly agitated by more and more things. I mean, you have to come to a realization at some point that there's always what ifs, but that you can cover in a lot of scenarios.
Exactly. But you can approach someone, okay, so look at CWB as an example. I am aware of it. I'm not, an expert on it.
Right.
Some people might get worked up. Think, okay, hey, CWB, and get on the YouTube train and fill their mind with fear surrounding it. What do you think that percentage is, Eric? We got all these
of what people are fear-based?
That are, look at you and me are, we prep, we understand the game, this whole process, we enjoy doing, our lives, just like JJ. Right. The hardcore prepper. We don't let it ruin our day.
Exactly.
For some people. How many people do you think have that?
Out of prepper specifically, or out of the whole population?
Specifically, like the preppers.
Honestly, it seems high to me. I would guess it's like at least 25%. Maybe you know what I mean? That would be my guess. At least have it to some extent. Maybe not that are consumed by it, but I would guess it's somewhere in the 25 to 50% that are primarily motivated. And you can see that by we've talked about the type of videos that do well on YouTube that get all the views versus the ones that don't. The ones that are like, don't worry, you only have to do this. Ignore it. The one that's like, you're all gonna fuck. The one that's like, you're all gonna fucking die and it's happening tomorrow. 1 million views. You know what I mean? So I think it's at least 25 to 50% of people are at least susceptible to that thinking, if not consumed by it.
Isn't that sad? You're right. You're absolutely correct. I would steer closer to 50%. And that tells me a lot about it's really sad. It tells me a lot about preppers in general, that they're not focusing on where they should be focusing on, which is their, a healthy psychology. And I'm going to give you this one little rant and then we'll shut up. But good night, Brian. Thanks for
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. There are people that don't really appreciate or understand or aware of the concept of prepping. They have no idea what prepping is about, but their psychology is sound. And I guarantee they're going to survive the apocalypse more so than a lot of preppers out there.
Absolutely, especially, and I think we've mentioned this specifically in the past, like with just like, if I had to choose, I don't know that many preppers personally, but like just knowing the type of people that sometimes get roped into it. The people that I would choose to like be on my team that I know, none of them are preppers. You know what I mean? Like that's one they have all the other elements of personality and character that you would want, and they just don't typically do.
What they're living their life.
Yeah, they're just living their life. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I will say, and I think the best, if you find yourself, anyone watching this, find yourself in that where you get caught up, the thing to focus on is that realize no matter what the issue is, let's just take this deer disease for an example. There's usually a couple things that you can do for any particular fear that eliminates like 80% of the risk. You can never eliminate the risk completely, but just by doing like say, or driving, for example, if you're really worried about a car accident, you could say like, oh, I need to get a flame-proof suit and a roll cage and the helmet, and I need to have cameras all around it. And like all that stuff does help. Like all of those things would decrease your chances of dying in a car accident. But just a few things like wearing a seatbelt, getting a car has a certain safety rating, being an alert driver, like those 3 things that you can easily do. And, driving at certain speed limits, like that's all you have to do to eliminate most of the risk. Yes, you could do all that other stuff to take off an additional little bit of risk, but a few things will usually eliminate most of the risk. And so that's what I would try to find is whatever you're looking at, say, what couple things can I do that'll take the biggest chunk of this risk away? Like with a deer disease, if you say, I mean, I'd have to research this specific disease, but if, like I suspected, not eating the brain and maybe just not eating the other meat raw or whatever, maybe that alone will eliminate like 90% of the chance of having an issue with this. And then there's no point in worrying about this minuscule little risk that's left over.
Mm-hmm. We've got a couple of comments here. So we'll do South Florida DCL first. Do you have any plans? Meeting face to face? Sure. So I've got an expo that I'm a part of here. It's a Canadian Survival Expo, and it's like a 3-day event where we have a big party, a lot of teaching, a lot of different classes on everything. Not me, everybody else, all the other real experts here in Canada. And I'd love to have Eric down for that. In probably July of 2022, but we'll see with your schedule.
Well, more important than my schedule actually is that as of right now, I think you have to be vaccinated to get in. So that's a hurdle. So I guarantee you at one point, Jay and I will meet for sure. Absolutely. But we may have to wait until that rule is lifted, or for you to come south of the border. Not sure what the alternative would be.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason for me to go to California anymore. So
yeah. Right. Can you recommend a good way to preserve deer meat? I mean, I just mentioned a few minutes ago earlier on the episode, it's the same way you'd preserve any other type of meat. You can freeze dry, you can can, or you can freeze. And you could also dehydrate, I guess, like beef jerky or jerk it. And those are really the only methods of preserving meat outside of maybe making some kind of like pemmican or hardtack or something. But
yeah,
it's really nothing specific to deer meat. I think deer meat is leaner than beef typically, right? So it should not be certainly shouldn't be any harder to preserve than beef. You just do it the same way you did any other meat.
Yeah, or we do the sausages as well, and you mix it with some pork. For me personally, I freeze it because I use it throughout the year. What I would recommend is get it certainly dehydrated, because deer jerky it's nice throughout the year. Something easy, grab it, throw in your pack if you're going on a hike. What I would recommend is if you've got a little spot where you do your skills and your knots and your batoning and whatever it is, try and bring some and try and actually smoke it, just so you can get used to that primitive method of preservation. And when you have a piece of meat, let's just say it's the size of my palm, lots of slits in it, and there's lots of videos on how to make a smoker, but it'll dehydrate, the moisture will get removed from it quicker.
Oh, by increasing the surface area. Yeah,
exactly.
So here's an idea for Matthew Stone says, I preserve it by putting it into my belly. Yeah, he stores it in fat deposits along his midsection.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, for me, freezer. Here's the thing. I've done it all. I've done the dehydrating, the pressure canning, smoking, blah 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 blah. Cool. Certainly get used to all the methods. There's pros and cons of each system. The ones that Eric and I have outlined. So good as a prepper to be familiar with all of them. So, all right, what's next?
We got a few minutes left, and then I got to take off. But
yes. So, do you want to share my memes? I sent you a couple.
Oh yeah, let me look those up.
With
I didn't even see that I got an email.
Ladies and gentlemen, well, thanks for joining us. While Eric's doing that, if you have any last-minute questions for us, please feel free to comment in the comment box. If not, we'll see you in probably 2 to 3 weeks' time. And we'll have a guest this time. It's my fault.
All right, let me see. I think I can. So you just got these 2, right?
I don't on Facebook all the time like you.
Yeah, so these are, right. These are
Twitter, or whatever it is.
Twitter most. I forgot all the Alec Baldwin ones. They had one that I forgot. I think I took it on my phone, but I forgot to put it on the lap or the computer, where it says it shows him, but it's the CDC, and it says take the shot.
So if anybody doesn't know that scene, that's from Pulp Fiction,
right? Where he blows Marvin's head off. He kills Marvin. I just shot Marvin in the face.
All right.
All right, then the next one is inflation. What inflation? A pack of ground beef is the same as last month. It's like microscopic. Yeah, that's one of the things, shrinkflation. Like people, that's why you have to look at per unit price, pound and stuff, not a package, because they'll shrink the size of a package to keep the price the same, but you're getting less.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can see that in time too.
Alec Baldwin thing.
Of, 2x4s.
Oh yeah.
Like a 2x4 from the 40s, the 60s, compared to a 2x4 now is actually it's
and there was better wood back then too. Now it's all this like scrub pine, soft as hell.
That's right. You were saying Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, it was an interesting situation. Because like obviously it's more and more that comes out about that, the more and more it was such a shit show of protocols. But people trying to take the blame away from him. Like obviously you can have more than one person can be responsible for acting poorly. But bottom line is anyone who's ever had done anything with guns, if once that gun's in your hand, you are responsible for it. So the fact that like even if someone literally purposefully tried to sabotage him by putting a live round in, which I don't think was the case, but let's say that it was, he still picked up a gun, didn't check to see if it was loaded, pointed in a direction he didn't like actually intend to shoot, and put his trigger or his finger on the trigger when he was not intending to fire. So not only, didn't clear it. So he broke it at the very least 3, probably 4 of the like major rules of gun safety that would have prevented any one of those. If he followed it, would have prevented this from happening, even if that person tried to get that to happen on purpose. So there's no absolving him of the blame. And then when you add the how disgusting of a person he is when talking about other situations like that, like saying like it was one of those police killings and he's like, oh, I wonder what it feels like to kill someone improperly and stuff. So it's like, so fuck him, I don't care. Yeah, wow. He definitely deserves all the hate that he's getting for it, I think, in my opinion. That's just my
trigger
opinion.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Austria just announced lockdown for all unvaccinated aged 12 and up.
Scary stuff. They really were inspired by their Nazi occupation, I guess, years ago, because they're literally making like a 2-class society now where they're doing a lockdown just for the unvaccinated. Ridiculous.
Incredible. Yeah. It's interesting times we live in.
For sure.
Fascinating times. It doesn't get old, that's for sure.
No, definitely interesting things happening every day. But someone asked recently when the next one was. Do you have a date you want to do? I think 2 weeks is probably the standard if nothing happens between us. Let me check the date on that. That would be the 28th. Is that I don't think I'm able to leave town for Thanksgiving, so I don't think that'll interfere that I'll be gone or anything that weekend. Right. So I'm okay with tentatively scheduling it for the 28th if that works for you. But as always, just keep checking the website throughout the week. As soon as we have, if it does change, we'll update that, or Shay will. So
I'm gonna update it right now. So we are tentatively coming back on the 28th. We will have a guest. You know what? We're going to leave on at least more direction with respect to where we're going. Yeah. I'd like to get Michael Maloof off. We've got a book called A Nation Forsaken, and he really goes into the technical aspects of EMPs. That could be a great guest.
Absolutely. I've wanted to do one on EMP for a long time, get some real experts, because it's something that is very interesting. Obviously comes up in prepper circles, but has a lot of misinformation, I think, and not many people really, including myself, really understand a lot of the fundamental aspects of it.
It never gets old. It never gets old. And there's so much misinformation there about the EMPs in general, any aspect of EMPs, even preppers. Other preppers say, oh, you got to do this. It boggles my mind that there's so much garbage information of it. So yeah, an expert on it would be great. And I've chatted about it before, and who knows, maybe there's brand new revelations that we can learn from people that really know a lot about the science of electromagnetic pulse. It's very fascinating to me too.
It is, and it obviously it comes up because it's one of the few actually possible ways that the like massive parts of the planet could be like simultaneously in like a grid down, shit hit the fan. It could legitimately happen, whether from nuclear explosions or from solar flares or something. So not that I don't think it's likely, obviously, but it's one of the few ways that could even ever occur. So that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, and you're right. If I was a gambling man, I would say it's unlikely, but it certainly is a. If that happens, then we are.
It's
Forget
on.
coronavirus.
Yeah, it's
then
on.
it's on. Exactly, it's on. We are in this for yeah. Game over, humanity. Very good. All right.
Cool. So I think we'll call it for tonight. It's got 7 o'clock, but went quick.
If they give him the gun and he asks, is it safe? That's from South Yep. Yeah. Anyways, talk about the next time. Eric, pleasure as always, brother. So we've got it written down for the 28th. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. And let's try that EMP route.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. So
fun for sure.
Absolutely, my friend. All right, guys. I appreciate everyone watching. And right now, like I said, the tentatively for 2 weeks, and maybe after that, we'll get Morgan back on here to talk about her adventures in the media in Alaska. So thanks for watching, guys, and we will talk to you